Okay, we are live. I'm attorney Vince Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. And I'm joined this morning by a very special guest, Stacy. Is it Sony Litter?
Sunletter.
Sunletter. Okay. I knew I'd screw that up. So, Stacy, where are you coming to us from?
From the state of New York, just outside of Buffalo.
Have you lived in New York your entire life?
Yes.
So what's going on with CPS in the state of New York?
A lot of nefariousness.
You know, I seem to hear that from people all over the country.
Yes, you do. I'm aware. I've been in this arena for 10 years now.
You've had a CPS case for 10 years?
Well, when you're divorced from an attorney who worked for CPS, it's in your life all the time.
Ah, very interesting. You know, in LA, when that situation comes up, CPS, or you can make a motion to have CPS taken off the case. And then the case is assigned to usually another county, or the state comes in with their own attorneys and their own social workers, because there's too much of a conflict or nepotism going on there. Now, does your ex still work for CPS?
So he's a former attorney for Niagara County CPS. He's a current Niagara County public defender. So for 10 years, I have never had a fair forum. And also the other conflict therein is that his bankruptcy attorney is also a part-time Niagara County CPS attorney. So in fact, cases were referred to Erie County. He was indicated 4 times, but the New York State CPS program manual policy is that after a disposition on a case, it gets referred back to the home district. So the conflict is, and the divided loyalty is, that his own bankruptcy attorney would be the person to commence an Article 10. And he's not going to commence an Article 10 on his own client.
Well, somebody's brought this up to the judge, right?
So the problem again is that I have not had a fair forum. I have had 9+ judges recused or disqualified for cause in our area, and the district administrative judge is referring to transfer my case to a fair forum. I filed a notice of claim with New York State for failure to provide a fair forum.
And what happened?
I just did it.
Oh, okay. Seems like you're about 10 years too late on that.
You're right. But how do you know? Like, at what point was it officially an unfair forum? Was my very first attorney ever wrong for commencing our divorce action in the same courts he practices in regularly?
You know, that happens in LA too. And what they try to do is they send those cases out to other counties.
In fact, so I was asking the administrative judge to do that. In fact, I filed motions for disqualification for review by the administrative judge, and always they failed to provide a different forum. And so I just went myself to a different venue, and they fined me $2,500 for filing in the wrong jurisdiction.
Yeah, you can't be doing things like that without an attorney.
I can't even get an attorney because I'm a Chapter 13 debtor, so I can't even get an attorney before I file.
Well, you can ask the trustee, right, to for money or whatever, to permission to hire an attorney.
Yeah, you can, but I don't even have it either. I really need to have assigned counsel. And the only way to get assigned counsel is after you file and then apply for it. There has to be an active motion, an active proceeding.
Well, you don't. I thought you said the CPS case is open.
So the CPS situation, he was indicated 4 times for lack of medical care, educational neglect, and 2 findings for inadequate guardianship. and that it was referred back to the county, but nothing from there. And in fact, this is so horrible. This is really horrible. This is gonna go places, this interview today. But the same agency he used to work for with his bankruptcy attorney is now insisting on maintaining all future investigations of child abuse and neglect. And I've even, written to the ethics board, to the legislator, to filing my notice of claim, and they insist on keeping these conflict of interest cases.
Well, there's one thing you haven't done, and I don't know if you watched my channel, but I suggest this to a lot of people. You haven't filed a complaint with the Department of Health and Human Services
I did.
in DC and the federal department, U.S. Department of Justice in your area.
I did.
Did anything happen?
No, in fact, I found the email address of the actual director, Melanie Rayner, and also Lisa Lee Anderson, and they just said, we have nothing to offer you, basically.
There is one last thing you can do, and that is you can institute a federal lawsuit.
That's what I started doing.
For the violation of your civil rights.
Right. So I filed my notice of claim, and I'm ready.
Wait. Now, this is interesting because this came up recently in something I'm involved in. When you file a federal claim, at least this is the rule in California, but I think it's the rule everywhere. You can check with a local attorney. When you file a federal claim in California, you don't have to file a notice of claim.
Right. For the state violations you do, the federal you don't.
Right, but you can't win on both. So you got to, if you're going to go to state court. If you can go to federal court.
Okay.
And when you're in federal court on federal claims, there's no such thing as a notice of claim.
Okay. So one of the things I was going to do is file a suit and seek a temporary restraining order against the Niagara County courts and CPS.
That's a tall order, young lady.
For failure to provide fair forum.
That's going to be difficult. Do you have a lawyer?
No.
Okay. It's hard enough winning a civil rights lawsuit in federal court by yourself. Okay. But you just added a degree of difficulty that I'm going to tell you need a lawyer. Whenever you try to hold the state court or the state judge or the process responsible and accountable, be ready for a fight because there's too much at stake, right? How could they possibly allow you to come in and show the world what they did? They will spend every dime to prevent that. And we just met. I don't know your background. I don't know if you're a lawyer or have any legal training or anything like that. But it's a tall order for an experienced lawyer. And it seems like if everything that you're telling me is accurate, it seems like you have a viable cause of action, a viable claim. But you have to remember these people that you're suing. They're not going to sit back and just say, okay, Stacy's got us on this one. Let's confess our wrongdoing and give her millions of dollars and blah, blah, blah.
I wasn't even so much worried about money as I was just wanting to get to a fair forum. Even.
Well, you should sue for the damages for the money, but you should also sue for what's called a preliminary injunction. And you can get that resolved right at the beginning of the lawsuit. You should ask for a federal court order that you be given a fair forum or your case be transferred to a fair forum.
Right. And that's what that was my intention. And I felt that was a reasonable goal because it's not so besmearing or it's just a transfer of forum.
But you're going to have to do that, the right way. Your complaint has to be accurate. Your motion for preliminary injunction has to be accurate. You got to have the right evidence. Here's where a lot of people fall down, that I talk to on the phone or on the show or whatever. They have great cases. Okay. But one of the things that CPS, you know, counts on is that you're not going to do it the right way. You're not going to have the right evidence. So, before you do a motion like that, make sure that you have the right evidence.
I believe my evidence is very compelling. For
Well,
one,
compelling is one thing. Is it admissible?
yes, I think so. I've had 100% of Niagara County family court judges recuse. I've had every single Niagara County Supreme Court judge recuse except one that I know of. And when Niagara County CPS was previously maintaining investigations against my ex, their own former employee, they inexplicably unfounded my children's disclosures of strangulation and refused to send my children to the Child Advocacy Center. They called it appropriate caregiving.
Do you have custody of your child?
No, he has custody of all 4 of our kids with his 4 indications. I'm a physician assistant. I have no arrest history, no child abuse history, no mental health history. I'm gainfully employed, own my own home with 5 bedrooms.
Who gave him custody?
So what happened was in the beginning of this situation, my children disclosed sexual abuse. And unfortunately, the first judge, well, in all honesty, I found what I think was a bribe too, but that's not provable. But I think I know what happened. And it arranged this particular judge. And this particular judge ended up admitting that he knew my ex personally. At onset didn't believe he did the things as alleged. So the first judge, sua sponte, ordered the attorney for children and a custodial forensic evaluator. And the attorney for children, come to find out, my ex used to work for him for over a decade as an attorney doing, independent contract work for him. And there was this relationship that they didn't disclose at onset of the case. My kids disclosed sex abuse to the attorney for children, who continued to argue custody to the father. My kids disclosed sex abuse to the pediatrician, who came to court and testified he felt that the kids were sexually abused, and still the judge and the attorney for children gave custody to the father. The custodial evaluator, the order was written for him to evaluate the parties for role of alcohol in the relationship, but that was neither his allegation nor mine, so I think it was an erroneous template that they used. In the court forensic, we took testimony from him, a deposition, and he admitted that it was probably written wrong, so he just went along with what he thought he should do. And apparently what he thought he should do was call CPS and the police and tell them not to talk to my kids about their disclosures of sex abuse. My ex's MMPI came back hysteropsychopathic deviant with the personality profile of 3443. Mine came back normal. The custodial evaluator said he saw no evidence of dysfunction in my ex and recommended custody to the father.
How long ago was that?
That was in 2015.
Did you appeal any of these?
So I actually sued at one point. I sued Niagara County CPS because there were these investigations. Again, my kids disclosed strangulation. It wasn't like they disclosed strangulation. It was my daughter was repeatedly running away from the father. The police were involved. There's multiple police reports of her running away from the father. She ran away so many times she was hospitalized. She told the psych nurse that she was scared of him, that he was putting his knee in her abdomen and squishing her. And Niagara County CPS unfounded all of that. So I sued them for, Niagara County CPS indicated me at one point saying that I was coaching the children to say bad things about their father. But the father literally journaled about using force on our daughter. It's in his own journaling. He admitted to using restraint, but I never had to restrain her. And my son said he saw it happen. And they both said where, when, why, and how. She lied about her homework. She crumbled her homework. She ate one too many cookies. She was up on the second floor balcony. Those were the reasons that they disclosed. And one time she told a neighbor that he was hitting her, so she ran away to the neighbor's house. All these things they unfounded. So I sued them. And unfortunately, I know you're well aware of the games that CPS also plays. They're not honest. And so I think what happened, my attorney who is litigating seemed to me maybe very honest, because she told me that the attorneys for CPS were showing up at her gym, and she's at the Jewish Rec Center. And then the judge ruled, that I was just litigating so I could get custody. And, that's a faux pas in federal court, when I was really litigating because what they did was malicious prosecution, deprivation of civil rights. I'm sure there was like 4 claims that we had. And the federal court dismissed the case without prejudice and remanded it to Supreme Court. And where I think the real foul play occurred was the attorney that was going to represent me in Supreme Court said, "Oh, yeah, I'll represent you. And then the last day came to file it, and I'm not representing you, and I'm not doing that. So I think he was approached. So in terms of appealing things, with the forensic evaluator saying, despite my ex's MMPI saying hysteropsychopathic deviant, despite my kids making sex abuse allegations, despite all the police reports of her running away, the psych report was adverse, saying that I was coaching the kids to say bad things about the father, plus I was indicated. So my attorneys advised me to consent to a out-of-court settlement, that I would do a period of supervision, and if that went well, I would get my kids back. But that was when I was young and naive, and that's not how it goes.
Have you ever thought about writing a book about this?
I think that's what everyone does when they go through this. But yeah, I have a title in mind. One of the things that my daughter did was she wrote on her father's door a letter. And again, CPS refused to look at this in the house. I knew it was there because my son told me, and I told him to send me a picture. So I saw it. And it said, I haven't reviewed it in so long. It was something to the effect of, "Dear Dad, when I get in trouble, you push me too hard. Please be more nice." And so I was going to put that on the cover of the book and say, call it "The Writing is on the Wall, but nobody wants to see it." Something to that effect. But I'm too busy trying to get my kids to safety to worry about writing a book right now.
Well, you've tried everything else.
Tried a lot.
So you've already been to federal court and you were thrown out?
This was in 2017, and it was dismissed without prejudice and remanded to Supreme Court. And then when it was supposed to be filed, the attorney who said he was going to represent me ultimately didn't file.
So was your case dismissed with or without prejudice?
Without.
Okay.
Without. And these newer problems are since that. So it's more of an ongoing conduct, and there are new issues that I think once again have a viable claim.
How old are the kids?
This is terrible. This is such a Debbie Downer story for Easter. So my oldest 2 are internationally adopted, and my daughter is turning 17 and my son is 16, and my younger two are biological twins and they're 13.
So how many kids altogether?
4.
So the youngest two are 13.
Correct.
Okay, but when you go to family law court regarding custody and visitation, if there's no CPS case, the judge is supposed to start taking into consideration what the children want at that age.
No, the younger two have expressed for years that they want to be at least equally with the parents. And the attorney for children knows it. But again, he's the same guy that used to hire my ex, and when my kids disclosed sex abuse to him, he still argued custody to the father.
Well, why don't you make a motion to have him recused
Have
from the case?
have. And in fact, I even got him grieved. I got him admonished, and they still wouldn't take him off the case. Honest to God. And finally, in April of 2022, he wrote his own motion to withdraw as attorney for children. And and then the CPS indications came, and he's still arguing custody to the father to not change the situation. And he hasn't even talked to my kids since December of 2021. So these reports of abuse and neglect come in, and he still doesn't even talk to his clients.
Well, when he made the motion to get off the case, what happened?
The judge, what do you call it when you close a case? It starts with a D.
Dismiss?
Well, not dismissed, but it's dissolved is what they call it when they close the entire case, right? Despite there was a motion pending, he closed the whole thing. And then the indications, so that was April of 2022. The indications came September of 2022. And then I filed in court for custody, and the judge got on and started just yelling at me. Well, this letter here doesn't say who's indicated and blah, 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 blah. And then I said, no, I know for sure it's the father. But I didn't know what the indications were at the time. I didn't know there was 4 even. And he is the same judge that precluded me from filing in court. So that's the other issue, was they obstructed my access to court, saying that I'm meritless and frivolous. Well, I'm not meritless and frivolous if there's 4 CPS indications. So I said, you know what, Your Honor, let's transfer this to family court. And when we transferred it to family court, that's when all 100% of the Niagara County Family Court judges recused from the case, all citing familiarity with the respondent. So I asked the administrative judge to transfer venue, and he refused. So that's why I filed then in the neighboring county. And then that judge said, this is abuse of the courts. And it's like, no, it's not. It's abuse of my kids, because now you just left my kids hanging. Thank you.
Okay, but here's the thing, Stacy. See, this is where a non-lawyer gets in trouble. You're looking for justice from your own heart, okay? But you're going about it the wrong way. And the reason why you're going about it the wrong way is because you think that our judicial system is perfect and should follow the law. That's what you think. And I don't know if you ever watched the news or if you ever watched this show. Is that what we find in real life? No? So my question to you is, why are you still looking for it? Square peg, round hole.
It's true.
It's not going to fit, Stacy.
But what do I do?
I just told you, and you said you didn't want to do it.
What's that?
Write a book. You see,
Really? You think that'll get me my kids?
The only thing that you have left that you haven't tried is exposing all of this to the public.
Actually, I do that too.
In the form of a book, press releases, newspaper articles, interviews on television.
Locally, I started on Facebook a group, Erie Niagara Dishonorable Honorables and Other Notorious Notables. And I've I've put everything on there. I've put redacted court transcripts. Whenever a judge is censured or there's a story in the news about it, I put it all on
But
there.
wait a minute. Who's looking at your Facebook page?
Mm. There's not a lot. There's like
Right.
600 followers or whatever.
Exactly. That's my point exactly.
Okay.
So what if you wrote a book?
Well received. I'll try it.
And now, but there's a whole thing about writing books. You know, it's how you write it, what your title is, how you publicize the book. You know, there's press releases, there's going on shows, there's being interviewed. You know, they're sending copies to your elected officials. Blah 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 blah. You know, um, so I don't know if you're doing those things, but you've tried everything else. You know,
I'll try it.
insanity is. You know what insanity
Doing the
is?
same thing over and over and expecting a different result. I get it.
Right.
And I
Okay.
know the courts aren't honest. My goal was to just get them in a situation where they were cornered and had to do something, but I know they're not honest. Believe me, at 10 years, if I didn't know they were not honest at this point.
So, what you have to do is you have to write a book. Now, remember, you can't use the names of your children, right?
Okay.
I wouldn't suggest using the names of any judges, right? But if you do, expect to be sued. Now, I'm not saying they are going to sue you because if what you say is true, the last thing they want to do is take you to court and give you another platform.
I've been exposing them by name for over a year.
Okay, here's the other thing you can do. Now, I don't know what New York does, but in California, judges have to be elected or appointed, but have to face re-election. And all judges, even if elected, have to face re-election. Okay. So, have you started campaigning against these judges?
I've done some things, and I've met with respective judicial candidates too, and things like that. I've started doing. Actually, started up locally too, a court watching organization, and we got access to the family courts for the public, and the courts recognize that now. We didn't do it just on a local level; we did it throughout New York State. And so they recognize the right of public access even to family courts right now. And so we got that off pretty well.
You know, I'm going to tell you a quick story. I wasn't involved with this, but I did read about it, and I knew people that were tangentially involved. In Northern California, not in my county, but 7 hours away, there was a woman who had a CPS case. Okay, and I think she had 1 or 2 kids, I forget. But the system tried to chew her up, spit her out, just like your regular case. And she took action. Here's what she did. And even at the time, I didn't know this was possible. Okay. She got enough signatures to put the recall of the judges on the ballot. I think there was 1 or 2 judges that she claimed screwed her over. Okay. And how she did it, that's a whole nother topic. All right. She went total grassroots. Now, here's the thing. From what I understand, what I was told, that the judges resigned instead of going to recall. Because if you go to a recall vote and you lose as a judge, you lose your retirement or some benefits. Nobody was looking to do that.
So they retired with their benefits.
Right. So what she did was absolutely amazing. Right. Now, I've talked about this before, about recalling. Now, I don't know, you probably don't know this because you don't live in California, but a year or so ago, some time ago, there was more than a year. It's been a few years. There was a move to recall the governor. Okay. Governor Newsom. Now, no one in their wildest mind knew that these people would get enough signatures to get that on the ballot. California is a Democratic state. We love our Democratic governor. There was no question he'd never be recalled. But a group of people organized and got his recall on the ballot. They lost eventually, but they got it on the ballot. Oh my God.
So they won. You know, they lost, but they won.
Right. Now, here's another little interesting fact. At the time, I was doing a radio show for KABC Radio, 790 AM in Los Angeles. And the way the programming went, they were either on right before me or right after me. But I remember being in the studio one day, and I actually got to talk to the guys that were doing this recall. It was fascinating talking to them about how they went about this. It was science on the internet. They broke the state up into 57 counties, because there's, I think, 57 counties here. They broke each county into all the cities. They broke the cities into neighborhoods. And they broke, they kept drilling down, and they would have a captain of the neighborhood, a captain of the city, the captain of the county, right? And they had places where you could go and sign the petition to recall the governor. They were so organized using the internet. Internet's free, baby. It's free. And they were so organized that they got enough signatures to get it placed on the ballot. Stunning, almost. You should consider a strategy like that. And by the way, I don't know what I did with it, but I copied their website. All right. Their website was basically a huge database, or a huge collection of information, broken down into county, broken down into city, broken down into, the neighborhoods, right? Because for example, each neighborhood in LA County is different. There's different concerns, there's different ethnic makeups, different, communities, totally. But they had somebody in that community who was able to reach out to their network to get people to sign the petition. And sometimes the people signing the petition in one neighborhood in Los Angeles County had different concerns than a neighborhood in San Francisco. But they all had one important fact. They all wanted to recall the governor. That's what you need to do. That's what the strategy you need to think about. Now, can you do this by yourself? Probably not. You're going to have to enlist people. And by the way, there's more people out there than you think that have the same concerns that you do. I was listening to what you said. You said you had 600 people in your Facebook group. You probably got a good 300 or 150 names of people who are committed to making a change. It's nothing like voting out or recalling a judge to get his or her attention. You think they care about your ex? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I'm sure that they're going to care about their jobs and their retirement.
This is how bad they acted. One of the judges, he admitted on court transcript that he called my kids' counselors ex parte and directed them to ignore any past or ongoing medical evidence of sexual abuse. And when I was appearing in court to protect my children, he told me to shut your mouth, and he fined me $1,000 and placed me in contempt when I said that I have important things to say for the record, and this is unconstitutional. And that was one of my wins pro se. I appealed that and won. But
Well, when you appealed that, weren't you able to get rid of him since you won?
No, no. Oh, by the time I appealed it, I had filed for his disqualification for cause. And I did send my motion for disqualification to all the legislators and so forth. And he did silently recuse and did not rebut my affidavit. So in a sense, that is admission, I believe, to the things contained in my affidavit about his conduct. And the Commission on Judicial Conduct ignores my complaints. I even filed, instead of through the Judicial Conduct Commission, I filed directly to the appellate court to disbar him, and that got ignored too, even with that egregious type of conduct.
Well, I don't know what to say. Mainly because I don't know what all the laws back in your state. I'm not licensed there. But here's something. It may have been a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I met a guy who's the Vince Davis of New York on steroids. If you can believe this guy, and I talked to him. We're talking about doing a show together, and doing some things together. I didn't know him, never heard of him, and I think it was Miss G found him or connected with him somehow through TikTok,
Oh,
social media. He had never heard of me. And he's been doing this for, I think he said 15 years.
I think, I watch your show and I chime in once in a while and say hi and so forth. But I'm busy too. I do have access with my kids and so forth. So I think I saw him, but couldn't watch the whole thing.
Okay, so you're in New York, so it's going to be easy for you. Because I tried to look him up on TikTok and I couldn't find him for some reason. I'm not a TikTok expert, by the way, but someone sent me the link to a video he did mentioning me. So I think you'll be able to find him. Just type in on TikTok CPS attorney, CPS defense attorney. I feel bad that I can't think of his name now, but his first name I think was Michael. Okay, and let me tell you his background. He started off as a prosecutor in Manhattan. Oh, by the way, he's in Manhattan in New York City. He started off as a prosecutor. Then he went to the dark side and started defending people. And he got involved in CPS, and he was just outraged at what he was seeing happening. I mean, pure outrage. This guy knows what he's doing. And, I could tell that from our conversation during the interview and then afterwards, and then looking at his website.
With doing our court watching, we go in on TPR cases and so forth. And one of the cases that we watched extensively was a family. They were both learning disabled, the mother and father, and CPS snatched their 4 children. One was, well, I believe murdered in foster care. The child died, but I think the child was murdered by their own child or adopted child that was placed with them. And they had multiple children in a 3-bedroom house. And the boys' room, I think, ranged up to age 17 to toddler. And they mixed foster and bio kids and broke rules that they're, not supposed to. The one child drowned in a swimming pool. And then throughout the case, the other foster placement of another child, that child had to be removed because that child was in neglectful care and foster. And while I felt that the parents needed support, they didn't need to be TPR'd. It's supposed to be minimum involvement to keep the kids safe. And they're learning disabled. They should be assisted and supported, not shamed. And I witnessed, because I'm a physician assistant, I witnessed CPS attacking this family horribly. They said, oh, it's a concern because the father wanted to put Neosporin on the baby's finger when she got a cut. And, oh, she puts her hands in her mouth. And I'm sitting there as a physician assistant. That's okay. That's not a concern. And they went to their pharmacist for the pharmacist to sign a letter saying that this is not a safety concern. And Erie County CPS went to that pharmacist and coerced her to sign a statement that that was a forgery. However, I was involved in the situation and know that it was not a forgery. So I see what they're doing to people to take their children. So, in addition to that, in this area, my children, I need to shut the door. My dog just opened it. Hold on 1 second. My children disclosed sex abuse, and my daughter made a written statement in her own handwriting that her father pinches her privates. She wrote the statement while she was at her father's house. And I called CPS, and they refused to refer my children to the Child Advocacy Center. And so my dog keeps opening the door. So I'm very aware, of the things that happen. So with my ex, I was always wondering, why are they going through such extent to cover him up? And while I was litigating in federal court, what I found out is subsequent to him, they knowingly, in Erie County, knowingly hired a sex offender to work for the same position as my ex. And I can name that person because it's public information. Nicholas D'Angelo. So while he was working as an attorney for CPS, he appeared on my case too to help my ex out. And while a CPS attorney, he's now indicted on 12 charges of rape. And one of the victims was a child in DSS custody. Unfortunately, the courts and the media portray it as an underage prostitute. And there's no such thing as a child that's 16 years old as a prostitute. If a 5-year-old can't be a prostitute, a 16-year-old can't be, because the law is 18. So even, and then after that, I've met victims of my ex where he was trafficking children through his position with CPS. A mother who was taken advantage by a pedophile when she was 16, and he was 40. Then they had kids. He beat her in front of the kids. And with my ex being involved, custody went to the pedophile. And then she met other people where they were trafficking children to a lesbian couple. Come to find out, one of the lesbians was sleeping with a 16-year-old girl, and she got caught, and my ex was her attorney. And this got all hushed. It didn't go to the courts. It didn't go to the police. It didn't go to the FBI. The result was she wasn't allowed to foster children anymore. And apparently this person, she tells me, my ex continued to do adoptions to that pedophile family, knowing that they're pedophiles.
By the way, Trent Dancy, who's also from Erie, remembered the name of the attorney that I'm trying to give to you, Michael, and that's his last name on the screen. You see it?
It's not. Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
So go ahead and write that down. First name, Michael.
Thank you, Trent. Thank you.
Trent also sent me a link in the comments. He's watching on Facebook. Trent, I don't know what that link is, and I'm not sure that I can open it. And it's too long to post. Tell me what that link is, Trent. Stacy, the first thing that you should do tomorrow morning is call Michael. Now, how far are you from Manhattan?
Kind of a ways, but I actually kind of go there every once in a while. So.
Okay. I can't remember if Michael told me he did cases outside of Manhattan. I think that he does. And he told me that he was even licensed in New Jersey. So he may not have a problem traveling. He may be able to help you. He may not. I don't know. But I know one thing. He'll be willing to talk to you, and get some valuable information. Stacy, I want to thank you for being on the show today. Your story, though, is a little bit more complicated. Maybe we should pick this up at another time. But I've also, if you look at your screen, there's a place for private messages, private chat. Do you see that?
Yeah, I see your number.
Okay. So Please write that down and please text me. Um, but it's interesting from my perspective, having the show is that you're in a small county in New York, all the way across the country from where I am, and you're having the same types of problems that I hear from people here in Los Angeles, people all over California, people all over the United States, and it tells me that there's something wrong with the model that we're doing. Something's wrong.
I think, we all know about CAPTA and the federal funding that incentivizes. And we've all maybe had jobs where we were evaluated by our performance and how much money we brought in for the business. But I think that's just the tip of the iceberg of the finances that are exchanged, and the motives involved. There's job security to procure, problems. As a result of my kids being placed with their father, my son has even made social media posts about being a school shooter and has told his friends that he was suicidal. And that's much of the indications against the father because he didn't seek medical care for our son for that problem. In my opinion, that's because he doesn't want someone to elicit the history here that went ignored. Um,
Have you reported that to authorities about your son being a school shooter?
100%.
Has anything been done?
All that happened was Erie County CPS indicated the father 4 times and then nothing since.
I pray to God nothing happens, but if something does happen, there's going to be people held responsible.
Yeah. I want my kids back and I don't want to be the person that has to say I told you so.
Right. No, I get it. I get it. Hey, Stacy, I want to thank you for being on the show today. And we're going to have to pick this up on another session because you have a very interesting and complex story. Um, so if you're willing to do that, text me later and we'll set up a time and place. Make sure that you call Michael. Try to find him. He's on TikTok. Now, Trent posted this New York parole lawyer. I think that's one of Michael's sites, but he has another site specifically geared towards CPS. So you might be able to Google that also when you find him. But go to TikTok. He has a lot of TikTok, stuff. And he told me in the interview that he's just starting to get into doing, civil rights cases against CPS. So this is definitely a guy that you should speak to, at least a consult or something, right? Okay, Stacy, I know today's
Thank
Easter.
you. Yeah. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you and yours. And I hope you have the good rest of the day. Everyone will be on tomorrow, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific time with our shows. Thank you and have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.